Hello everyone. The year-end atmosphere is becoming more and more festive. Yet inside this home the air feels tense because of Trang's relationship, while Tusan remains lost in thought over her illness. The final days of the year always carry more emotions than people realize. While the streets are already touched with the red of calligraphy scrolls, the scent of candied fruits drifting through narrow alleys, and everyone busily cleaning and preparing for the new year. Inside the small house of Tusan's former in-laws, the atmosphere holds a quiet, somber tone that is hard to name. Tet is slowly approaching, but behind the plans for shopping and family gatherings lie worries that have yet to be spoken aloud. The house is not large. Daily life unfolds within just a few familiar rooms. The television plays cheerful spring melodies in the background, yet no one truly listens. Each person is absorbed in their own thoughts. Tusan sits silently in a corner of the living room, her gaze distant. She can hear her own heavy breathing, the footsteps moving back and forth through the house, but her mind is immersed in thoughts about the illness she continues to face quietly on her own. The end of the year is supposed to be a time of hope and new beginnings, yet her heart is filled with unanswered questions. Her ex-husband, Trang's older brother, has just returned from work. Fatigue from a long day still lingers on his face. He places his bag on the table, takes out 20 million VND, and hands it to his mother. He tries to keep his voice steady as he tells her to use it to prepare for Tet, and buy whatever else is needed to make things feel complete. The words sound calm, but behind them lies the pressure he is struggling to conceal. His mother accepts the money, her eyes softening. She understands how hard her son works, yet in their current situation, she can only quietly put the money away in the cupboard. Outwardly, he acts as though everything is fine, but once the bedroom door closes, the atmosphere shifts. He sits on the edge of the bed, leaning back against the wall, and makes a phone call. On the other end is a familiar voice, urgent and pressing. The 7 million VND interest payment is due. Just one day late, and the reminders have already grown sharp and relentless. He closes his eyes briefly, trying to keep his voice composed as he asks for a few more hours, promising to pay in cash later that afternoon. His bank account is empty. The money he just gave his mother was everything he had managed to gather after days of overtime work. In that moment, while the world outside buzzes with festive energy, he feels trapped in a silent space filled with pressure. The family has never been well off. In recent months, expenses have become even tighter. Medical bills, daily living costs, Tet preparations, all of it weighs heavily on the shoulders of the family's main provider. And then there is Trang's situation, adding another layer of tension to an already strained atmosphere. Trang, his younger sister, is preparing to marry Tone. It should be joyful news for the family, especially with the new year so close. But her pregnancy before marriage has created conflict between the two families. Previous conversations between them have not been entirely smooth. Tone's family, facing financial hardship, once opposed the marriage. They feared they could not afford a rushed wedding and worried that the costs and future responsibilities would become an overwhelming burden. The exchanges were not explosive, but they were enough to create an invisible distance. Trang stands in the middle of it all, wanting to protect her love while not adding pressure to her family. Her eyes are no longer carefree. Whenever someone mentions the wedding, she falls silent, gently placing her hand over her stomach as if trying to reassure herself. Within that house, each person carries a different worry. The mother worries about preparing a decent Tet, so they will not feel inferior to others, worries about her daughter's future, and worries about her son who silently shoulders everything. Trang's brother tries to appear strong, but the calls demanding interest payments are constant reminders that time waits for no one. And Tusan, though no longer a daughter-in-law of the family, cannot completely detach herself from these changes. She watches everything unfold around her with a heavy heart. Her illness lingers like a silent shadow, making every future plan feel more fragile than ever. The The final days of the year are meant to be a time of reunion and anticipation for a brighter beginning. Yet inside this small house, joy and anxiety intertwine. No one fully voices what they are truly thinking. Outside, the distant sound of Tet's fireworks echoes faintly, reminding everyone that Tet is very near. Inside, every breath, every glance, every hurried phone call continues quietly, forming a chain of unresolved concerns. No one knows what the coming days will bring. Will he manage to gather the money for the interest payment in time? Will the tension between the two families ease? And how will Tusan face her illness amid the busyness of year-end life? All of it remains ahead, connected to lingering thoughts that have yet to fade. Much like the festive atmosphere outside, vibrant and lively, yet quietly carrying so many unspoken burdens within. Today, Trang and Tone decide to return and have an honest conversation. After many days of hesitation, after countless sleepless nights when both of them understood that the longer they delayed, the wider the gap between the two families would grow, they choose to face it. The front door opens on a chilly year-end afternoon. Outside, the sounds of people bustling about preparing for Tet remain lively. But inside the small living room, the atmosphere feels heavier than usual. At first, the air is tense. Trang's mother sits upright, her face still marked by lingering anger. She does not raise her voice, but every glance, every quiet sigh reveals the hurt she has been carrying all this time. For her, the pain is not only about her daughter becoming pregnant before marriage, but also about the attitude she once sensed from the groom's family. She believes her daughter has suffered, has silently endured insinuations and hesitation that made Trang feel as though she were the one at fault. On the other side, Tone's mother cannot hide her frustration either. She feels she has been put in a position where everything was already decided. The secrecy over such a long period has left her feeling stunned and disappointed. She wonders why something so important was not shared sooner, so that the adults could discuss it together and find a solution. Feeling excluded is hard for her to accept, even though deep down she is still worried about her son and the grandchild soon to be born. Standing between the two sides are Trang and Tone, silent, their fingers intertwined as if searching for strength. Trang lowers her head and speaks first, admitting her fault. Her voice is soft but steady. She says she never intended to deceive or bypass anyone. Everything began with fear. Fear of disappointing her parents, fear of being scolded, fear of adding more pressure to both families while finances were already strained. That fear made her hesitate, and hesitation gradually turned into silence. Many times she wanted to speak up, to say everything and feel relieved, but she stopped herself when she thought about the mounting worries at the end of the year. She admits that every silent day was a day lived in anxiety. She could not look her mother in the eye whenever the future was mentioned. She did not dare to think too far ahead, only hoping for more time so that circumstances might improve. But the longer she waited, the more complicated everything became. At this point, her voice trembles. She does not make excuses or place blame. She simply accepts responsibility and hopes to be understood. Tone then steps forward and takes responsibility as well. He says it was he who asked Trang to remain silent, not because he lacked love but because he lacked the courage to face reality. He was afraid that once the truth came out, his parents would be disappointed and accuse him of being irresponsible for not preparing adequately before letting things happen. He feared that financial hardship would turn the wedding into a burden for both families. In that worry, he chose to delay, thinking that if he waited a little longer, until his job was more stable, until money was more secure, then he would speak. But Tone also admits that silence did not make anything better. It only weakened trust. He does not want to lose his parents or hurt his family. Yet he cannot turn his back on Trang and their child. It is his responsibility, his love, something he cannot deny. He only hopes to be forgiven and to be given a chance to build their family openly, without secrecy or lingering guilt. Their words gradually quiet the room. The initial tension does not disappear instantly, But it softens. After exchanges filled with reproach and difficult questions, what remains is not a matter of right or wrong, but shared concern for the children's future. Everyone understands that no matter how angry they may feel, the most important thing is the life ahead for Trang, Tone, and the baby. Finally, Tone's mother lets out a long sigh. That sigh carries her hesitation, her resentment, and the softness of a mother's heart. She says that for the sake of the children and the grandchild, with the new year approaching, the family should not let division continue. There is only one Tet each year. If grievances are held onto, reunion will never feel complete. She agrees to forgive, but with one condition. From now on, no matter how big or small the matter, they must be honest. A family may be poor, may lack material things, but it must never lack sincerity. Hearing this, Trang's mother also softens. The firmness in her eyes gives way to concern for her daughter. She no longer revisits the past, only gently reminding her child to live responsibly and cherish this opportunity. She does not want her daughter to enter marriage burdened by shame or lingering hurt. In that moment, months of tension seem to loosen, not through a simple apology, but through honest confrontation and acceptance. The two families sit together again, the distance between their chairs no longer as wide as before. Tea is poured earlier than usual. It is not a formal ritual, just a small gesture marking reconciliation. The atmosphere grows warmer, truer to the meaning of reunion. Outside, spring is drawing near. Inside that house, forgiveness and understanding have just begun to take root on the threshold of a new year. And after long days of worry, everyone finally seems ready to move forward with lighter hearts, welcoming a Tet no longer overshadowed by the heavy silences of the past. Elsewhere, as the tension inside that house gradually settles, Tusan quietly sits down to write in her journal. Her room is so silent that she can clearly hear the ticking of the clock, each second passing with measured precision. Outside the window, the late-year sunlight casts a pale golden glow over the rooftops, warm, yet faintly tinged with melancholy. There are no arguments here, no voices tangled between right and wrong, only a stillness deep enough for a person to face herself. She did not attend the emotional family discussion. She chose to remain outside of it, not out of indifference but because she understands that her role has changed. Her life turned in a different direction long ago, stepping away from old ties and moving toward a new journey filled with hope and private worries of her own. Yet when she hears that her former in-laws have finally resolved their misunderstandings, that both sides were able to sit down together for the sake of their children and grandchild, she smiles softly. It is not a radiant smile, just as light as a passing breeze, but enough to calm her heart. Deep down, she still wishes peace for everyone. Even if the past was imperfect, even if there were days when her heart felt heavy with hurt and difficult choices, she has never wished suffering upon anyone. Knowing that things have begun to untangle, she feels as though a knot inside her own heart has loosened as well. Her journal lies open before her, older lines still carrying the raw emotions of days gone by. Tusan picks up her pen and slowly continues writing. She remembers her recent birthday, when Hai stood before the flickering candlelight and spoke his wish. He wished to marry her, to have beautiful children, to build a complete and loving home. She smiled at that moment, but behind her smile lay a quiet fear only she fully understood. In her journal, she writes that tomorrow she will go for another medical checkup. The sentence appears clear and firm on the page, like a reminder she cannot avoid. This result will determine many things, not only her health condition, but also the answer to their future plans, to the dream Hai expressed with such sincerity. She does not want to make promises when she is unsure how far she can truly walk beside him. She does not want to plant hope only to risk disappointing the person she loves. She pauses her pen and looks at the unfinished page. She realizes that for a long time she has been living in a state of both hope and fear. She hopes for good news, yet fears facing the truth if it does not align with her wishes. That inner struggle has stolen many nights of restful sleep. Seeing Trang's family finally sit together in reconciliation makes Tusan understand something clearly. Some wounds can only heal after weathering storms. No one lives without mistakes. No one goes through life without hurting someone at some point. What matters is not never being wrong, but whether one has the courage to return, to apologize, and to mend what was broken. The forgiveness between the two families did not come from forgetting everything, but from choosing to move forward together. She wonders whether she herself has that kind of courage. The courage to face the medical results. The courage to tell Hai everything, even if the truth might cause them both to pause. The courage to choose a path that is not easy but honest. Thinking of this, she gently closes her journal, her hand resting on the cover as if holding onto a trace of warmth. Outside, Ted is drawing very near. Decorative lights begin to glow as the sky darkens. The sounds of shoppers, passing vehicles, and spring music drifting from a nearby store create a lively picture of a season on the brink of change. Everyone is preparing for a new beginning, for wishes and hopes at the start of a new year. One family has just learned to forgive, to place love above pride. One woman is waiting for an answer about her future, waiting for results that could alter everything ahead. And amid all this busyness, amid worries, dreams, and unnamed fears, hope quietly begins to grow. Not loudly, not showily, but steadily. Like spring itself slowly approaching, carrying with it the promise of a new beginning for all who are brave enough to believe and move forward. Outside, Ted is just around the corner. The streets are lighting up, and families are busy preparing for moments of reunion. Yet behind that festive energy, each person in this story stands at a crossroads of their own. Trang's family has just learned how to forgive in order to preserve their bond before the new year arrives. Misunderstandings that once seemed impossible to resolve were finally opened up through honesty and love. But after this acceptance, will Trang and Tone's married life truly be peaceful, when financial worries still linger? Elsewhere, Tusan is preparing to face the results of her medical checkup, a truth that could change all her future plans. Will she choose to tell Hai everything, or continue to carry it alone in silence? And if the outcome is not what they hope for, will their love be strong enough to move forward? As for Hai, with his heartfelt wish for a complete family spoken on his birthday night, how will he react when he discovers what Tusan has been quietly hiding? The questions remain unanswered. The choices are still waiting to be made. And in this moment between the old year and the new, hope quietly waits for its chance to bloom. Stay tuned for the next episode to discover the latest developments in the story. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave a comment sharing your thoughts after today's episode.
Xin chào tất cả mọi người đã quay trở lại với kênh của mình. Nay thì mình tiếp tục đưa đến video về câu chuyện của Tiểu San và Hải. Nhưng mà câu chuyện này thì nó lại, video hôm nay nó xoay quanh cái vấn đề về gia đình và cuộc sống của Trang và Toàn nhiều hơn. Như mọi người cũng biết, Trang và Toàn là hai nhân vật phụ. Vẫn đang làm video và chưa có xong. Mình muốn quay video cuối để cảm ơn mọi người đã theo dõi hết video hôm nay và hẹn gặp lại mọi người ở những video sau.